Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Americans. My name is Eliyahu Yisrael Bey, and I'm here this evening to share with you about your position with the Congress and the IRS and what your status and standing should be. You don't want to miss these series. Next month is April 2021, tax paying time. This is going to help you in your understanding as you go into the future to know what your status is. I was there, and I want to share with you something that's critically important. This is a subject that cannot be taken lightly. It is a subject that, for some, they will be nervous. But if you listen through these series that I'm going to bring to you, I believe they're going to be a blessing, and they're going to be tremendously helpful to you. I want to share with you the fact that there are two groups that pay taxes in America. Currently, both are paying. One group is the American National Republic. The American National Republic. We are a republic, not a democracy. The republic is the 50 states of the Union. Each state is a country in and of itself. People don't know that. And the other tax-paying group is the Federal National of the USA. These are federal employees, predominantly elected officials, and their employees. Now, what people don't know that the reason you or how you became as a state citizen, as a republic citizen, how you became a taxpayer is you volunteered when you were a teenager. Your very first job, you volunteered. You got the job, you worked a year, then people begin to coerce you into reminding that you must pay your taxes. You didn't know any better. There was no full disclosure on the government's part, on the IRS's part. Your parents did not know, their parents before them did not know that paying taxes for you as a national American is an election. You elected to pay. You were not obligated to come forth and start paying, but you elected because the people in this tax-paying group, as I said, were elected officials and federal employees. They were obligated. But the American nationals of the Republic were not. Not as far as April 15th. We all pay taxes on what's called what really runs this nation and what really runs the country is the import and the export taxes. There's so much of that comes in, there's more than enough to run America without having April 15th have all of that taxes leave out of the country, go to international bankers, and they send it to England. They send it to the authorities there, the hierarchy there. Okay. Revoking your election is established by the United States Congress. You entered in by election, you can revoke that by the authorization of the United States Congress. They're just doing the right thing by you. The United States Supreme Court says the canon of construction, which teaches that legislation of Congress, unless a contrary intent appears, that legislation is meant to apply only within the territorial jurisdictions of the United States. Only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. Okay? The territorial jurisdictions is the District of Columbia and its 10-mile radius. That's not the 50 states of the Republic. Okay? The territorial jurisdiction of the United States. And when we're talking about United States, they can mean, unless it's specifically defined, it can mean the 50 states of the Union, or it can mean the District of Columbia. So it has to be specific which one that's being talked about. And I tell you a little something. The government of the United States of America, the Republic, doesn't have a whole lot to say about the people here in America. It is the federal national that's got a whole lot to say about a whole lot of everything. Jurisdiction of the United States is a valid approach whereby expressly congressional intent may be ascertained. It is based on the assumption that Congress is primarily concerned with domestic conditions. In case I forgot to introduce myself, the name is Eliyahu Yisrael Bey. And what I'm saying here is related to all Americans, not just Moors. Because what I learned was before I became a Moor about taxation and my journey in understanding that and my bumping around in the dark with the IRS until I came to the light. Okay? Westlaw provides the following summary of the Foley Brothers Incorporation versus Falardo case. It is a well-established principle of law that all federal regulations and statutes apply only within the territorial jurisdictions of the United States. The District of Columbia, a contrary intent appears, meaning its implementing regulations are published in the Federal Registry. When a law is made, it cannot be a secret law to the American people. It has to go in what's called the Federal Registry. It has to be made public so people will know It cannot be a secret. And, cutting to the chase on that matter, the IRS is not in the Federal Registry. No Federal Registry, no law on the American people. The Internal Revenue Service operates under the 26 Internal Revenue Code, statutory laws, and its lesser known administrative, procedural, and implementing regulations regarding federal revenue services. The federal income taxation found in 26 Code of Federal Regulations. These federal statutes and regulations used by the Internal Revenue Code are applicable only within the territorial and legislative jurisdictions of the District of Columbia per the U.S. Supreme Court. Thus, the IRS statutes and regulations are specifically limited to their geographical jurisdictions, as well as legislative jurisdictions for the application toward those who are proper federal taxpayers, as expressed in the IRC at 26 U.S.C. 7701 A14. The limited geographical and legislative jurisdictions for IRS statutes and regulations is restricted to the District of Columbia by the legislative intent of the 16th Amendment. Two different groups of taxpayers. One was always mandated to pay, and the other, the larger subsidiary of people, they marched in voluntarily, not knowing, without full disclosure. Statutory taxpayers are defined to mean any person subject to any internal revenue tax. So you think you know what a person is, huh? Statutory term person, as defined at 26 U.S.C. 7701, refers only to statutory legal fictions created by and under the dominion of the U.S. Congress. The statutory term subject to means under the dominion and control of the national government / federal. Person subject to national government. National government. Those people who are required to pay taxes are federal, national, federal employees. Established by the Constitution, the American people are the sovereign. Ooh. Some people are afraid to use that word because a certain aspect of our government has demonized the word sovereign. They made sovereign a dirty word. They made sovereign a terroristic word. And we're going to learn where the word sovereign originates from. As such, the United States Supreme Court has declared in Yick, Y-I-C-K, W-O, versus Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356 in 1886, that, the word sovereign now, sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to the law, for it is the author and the source of the law. Oh, you need to get this in your spirit. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to the law. This is what came out of this case. Yickwo versus Hopkins. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to the law, for it is the author and the source of the law. Sovereigns create the law. Law cannot exist without man. We're not talking about God's law now. We're talking about man's law. God's law was here before man. And after man got here, he was allowed to create his own laws. So the laws that man created, he became sovereign over those laws. That doesn't mean that he can say, thou shalt not kill, and he goes and kills. You ain't supposed to do that. You can't have those kind of laws. Thou shalt not kill. You tell the citizens they cannot kill, but the government does all the killing that it wants. It is therefore an imperative necessity to include the statement of legal opinions expressed by the United States Supreme Court in the United States versus Cooper Corporations, 312 U.S. 600 in 1941, in which the court stated, since in common usage, the term person does not include the sovereign. Person and sovereign are different. Person and sovereign are different. So, in the government, person is not speaking about us. Person is speaking about someone lower than the sovereign. Statutes not employing the phrase are ordinarily construed to exclude it. If they don't say sovereign, they're talking about persons, someone that is sub-level, below we the people. Who could possibly be lower than we the people? That's something that is a fiction, something that is not real, something that sovereigns create like they do law. Thus, the statutory definition of persons found in 26 U.S. 7701 A1 and referred to in the statutory definition of taxpayer at 26 U.S.C. 7701 A14 does not reflect or include any fashion a reference to American nationals, Republic, 50 states of the Union, who are the identified sovereigns by birth in one of the 50 states of the Union, or from parents who were born here. A sovereign is one who is born by birth. Your sovereignty comes from God. You were born a sovereign. And the United States federal government has no authority to remove your sovereignty, take it away from you. It was given to you by God. That's what we call a right, not a privilege. Government gives privileges, but God gives rights. Interesting. Paying taxes. This is a very serious matter, because if you are walking in darkness of the fact of your right, then that makes you a slave. When you don't know your rights and you're walking in darkness. How did you get this way? That verse 1040. When I was a little boy, it used to say on the very top, voluntary. They took that off. On the line where it says sign here at the bottom, it says, now this is what gets people in trouble. This is what sends people to jail. Your signature, it says, under penalty of perjury. Ooh, you need to look that up. That's very serious. That's like raising your right hand and swearing. I declare that I have examined this return and accompanying schedules and statements. This is what was given to you. Schedules, statements, and a return. And to the best of my knowledge, when you were 16, you didn't have a clue. You didn't even know you was in the world yet. Totally confused as a teenager. Best of my knowledge and belief, which you had neither at 16, they are true, correct, and complete. This is a declaration of the preparer. Or you were supposed to prepare, or you had someone else. At 16, what possible clue could you have had about a serious matter like signing this under penalty of perjury? You would have had to have an attorney do this for you. But you didn't. You had H&R Block do it for you. So that's how you got under the status of a taxpayer. And after that was done, it was perpetual and ongoing. You were expected to pay. You signed yourself in to a private party, a matter that did not concern you. This was a party for elected officials, federal employees. Didn't have nothing to do with you. I'm going to try to make this just about a half hour because I don't want to overwhelm you. This is more, I have a series of these that I'm going to have to share with you. And I don't want to get too overwhelmed. And I want you who are concerned about this information, if it sounds interesting to you, and it should be alarming to you. Your ears ought to be, your eyes ought to be bucked about this here information. Let it be known that the Internal Revenue Service is a federal bureau headquarters. A federal bureau headquarters in Washington, D.C. People think the IRS is a government. The IRS is not government. You know, we used to have yellow pages delivered to our residents. In some cases they are, but they're very thin. They don't have a thick book. You could go in the front of that book and identify all of the entities that were government, listed under government. You will not find the IRS listed under government. That's because they are an agency. They are a subdivision. They were contracted to work for the government. Let it be known that the Internal Revenue Service, a federal bureau headquartered in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, a territory, 10-mile radius, concerning itself with federal matters, has promulgated in Title 26 of the United States Code, USC, a statutory legal option. Statutory legal option. For those who are non-resident alien individuals. Non-resident alien individuals. This is very important. To implement the termination at their discretion for any voluntary federal income tax election established at 26 USC 6013 G, which says, entitled, Elections to Treat Non-Resident Alien, that's what you are, as residents of the United States. A non-resident alien is you are non-resident to the federal government. You are alien to them. That's a subdivision government. You are alien to them. And you to be treated as a resident of the United States. That's the U.S. federal government. I'm going to stop this video here. Hopefully you got some interesting points that